And I got Beverly in here. We are now just waiting for Susan to join. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
Oh, still without a camera. It's great. It's great. Microsoft team is probably great at a lot of things, but this isn't one of them. And their communication is like, they're all overseas, which is fine. It's understandable. Very pleasurable to work with. But when you tell them to call you at a specific time and you allocate a time, that they're not good at. They just call you randomly all over the place, just like hoping that you'll pick up and are available.
Like appliance delivery.
It's like, why did I tell you a specific day and time if you're not going to follow that? Yeah. Well, looks like we've got Susan on here. How are you, Susan?
I was wondering, I was looking at the Bluetooth headsets, Bluetooth wireless stereo system for a car that doesn't have Bluetooth. They have it online, but I was wondering if you have one in the store.
Oh, she's on the phone.
sorry. I have to hang up. Sorry, I'll have to hang up. Sorry.
I was like, I don't know how to answer that question.
All right. Well, that's a first. How are you, Susan?
No, she's muted.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's, it happens. It happens.
Too funny.
I'm just going to prepare a live dial here. We'll kind of wait for Susan to pop in. I can give, okay, Susan can step in when kind of, add to it. So basically with a conversation with Susan that I had today, Susan makes a ton of calls. So if you jump in her system, she is in there. She is making her calls. That is, no questions asked. It is happening. A lot of her leads that she says she talks to right now is they're not buying now for all different reasons, whether it's COVID or this or that. So as you may have suggested, Beverly, is kind of like, going over how to dig deeper so that, and then also knowing for Susan as well, potentially on how to categorize and make sense of those leads so that she knows how and when to follow up with them without having to just like go off memory and what have you in the system. And Susan, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that kind of sums it up.
That sums it up? Okay.
Sums it up.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's so funny how we overthink this simple process because, Susan, I've been there. I remember making phone calls and then going through the list of all the reminders that I set. And I'm like, what am I going to say to these people? Like, why am I calling them back? They're not going to be buying for another year. Why am I calling them back? And I started getting smart. And I thought, well, let me ask them. And so it's really as simple as, and Susan, I have been dialing, I dial about 5 hours a day, every day. And I am all across the United States and Canada dialing everywhere on different platforms. So I'm in the trenches right there with you. And I can tell you today is much more different making phone calls and having conversations than it was even 6 months ago. People are in such a, I don't want to say that they're not in a fear. They're just in the unknown right now. Yes. Of people getting stuck in different countries and wanting to buy something, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to. And there's just an unknown in the energy right now and having conversations. So instead of trying to force the conversation, I'm just really learning how to ask even better questions than what I've always ever used to ask. I've even changed my opening pitch to, hey, Susan, this is Beverly. I saw that you were online looking at some homes. I'm just wondering what your future plans might be, instead of wondering what your situation is. Because I'm so tired of, I'm just looking, or I don't know. Okay, well, just tell me what your future plans might be. And it's not as intrusive. So when we're going into, tell me what your future plans, might be, or what exactly might you be looking for? And it kind of softens that tone for them to come back and say, what do we always hear? Oh, you know what? I'm really just looking right now. I really don't know. Well, let me ask this. As far as what would be the best information to help you while you're in the unknown? What exactly did you come online looking for? And what can I be doing for you in the meantime? So if we find the reason why they want to make a move, and taking that next question to, so tell me, why would you be moving when you make that decision to move? Because that really starts to tell a story. Is it because their children are going to university, they're retiring, they're relocating, they're downsizing, they're moving up? What is that reason? Because that is what is the pain. So once we can identify the reason, we're getting a little bit more of their story. And the more story we have, the easier it is to do the follow-up, because then we know. So I take it that step further and I say, well, what might your future plans be as far as when is a good time for me to follow up with you? And what's so funny is so many go, that's a good question. I don't know. Well, let me ask you this. What is the best information that I can get to you? Because you came online looking. What is the best information that I can get to you right now? And I have found myself going more into a concierge approach. And this is what I'm finding out, Susan. And this is what's so freaking exciting for me in this venture of, I love beating technology, because everyone right now is relying so much on automation because nobody wants to make phone calls. So when I'm having conversations with leads, they're actually talking to a real person, and I'm getting way higher quality conversations because they're not talking to anybody else. They may be getting updates from people, they may be getting text messages from people, but they're not having real life conversations. And people are hungry for real life conversations right now. Have you found that at all, Susan, as far as, you know, people being appreciative of having a conversation?
Oh, yes. And I've had a couple of people say, hey, stop calling me so much.
Yeah, it's at both ends of the extreme, right? Hey, I get the F-bombs. I had one lady, I would have paid money to have had it on video. She F-bombed me for, I swear, 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, if you treat a total stranger like that, I would hate to be in your household. I'm just glad I'm not in your household. You just never know what you're going to get on the other side of the phone. But for the most part, give me an example of a couple of conversations that you've had, maybe on someone that you have to follow up with that you can maybe lead me to, and I can make that call for you. Just give me whatever pops in your head right now as far as a conversation, and let's work through that.
I was talking to one lady who wants, she wants a bigger house. She's already in a 3,500 square foot house. She wants a 5,000 square foot house, and her budget's a little impractical.
Okay.
So I was trying to suggest that maybe we could look at a different area, perhaps in Pickering instead of Oshawa. And she said, no, I don't want to go that far. And besides which, I want a little bit more land. I said, well, then we've got to update the budget a little bit, perhaps. And so she said, well, okay, but I don't want to get listings. I only want to see stuff that is that you've seen that you know I'll like. So I just haven't seen anything that fits her.
And you're probably not. So in that instance, it's okay. What is the reason for the move? And what is your plan B if you don't find anything?
They'll just stay where they are. Her reason is, I think she wants to show up and entertain some more. And she feels 3,500 square feet is too small to do that.
So, and that's completely respectable. And, you know, I'm not here to make you move. I would love to be able to meet your expectations, but we have to find the opportunity, right? Because the only thing that makes a transaction happen is opportunity meets expectation.
Right.
So as far as a level of importance, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think would be the probability if that home came on the market that you would actually make the move? And you'll be surprised at their answer.
Okay.
You'll really be surprised at their answer. I always put it back on them, because there are a lot of people looking for a deal. And I'm not afraid to ask people, you know, is this the have to move or is this a want to move? Because a lot of times it's, I just want to move. And that's okay too. And, you know, I'm not going anywhere. I just want to be a resource of information. And this is my favorite line. So everybody get out your pencils and pens, or get your notepad out. This is my favorite line. We're not going anywhere. I just want to be a resource for you while you're going through this process. And I would love the opportunity to earn your business. So in the meantime, what is it that I can be doing for you that would be helpful for you until you are ready? And thank goodness this is recorded, because that is a snippet that you might want to pull. Yes. That is the golden line. And that makes your follow-ups so much more rewarding. And Susan, I know exactly, you know exactly what I'm saying, don't you? You can feel that, right? Yeah. Because it seems like when we do a follow-up, there's just no reward in that. It's, I don't know what to say, we overthink it, right? But if we have a reason, if we've made a promise, we need to follow up with that promise. And if service is our goal, we want to follow up and follow through with what they said would set us apart. Because only they know what they want. We have our own lens and we have our own way of seeing what's important for them. But what we see is important for them may not be important for them. So we have to ask them, how would you like me to follow up? When would you like me to follow up? How would you like me to follow up? And put it on them. And then bump it out 2 weeks sooner than what they say. So if they say, and you know, another piece is when people say next year, okay, well, it is October. Would that be spring, summer, or fall next year? And if they say spring, say, do you want to be in a home or do you want to start looking for a home? Because there's a big difference. I mean, you're talking 30 to 60 day difference of looking for a home or being in a home, right? So getting really specific with their wants and their needs.
Right.
And I'm totally fine just following up with people, because there is so much more of a reward, because you don't get hung up on when you follow up, and they don't yell at you when you follow up. They welcome the phone call. They're like, oh my gosh, I just talked to a lady today. My agent had not talked to her since July of 2019. And I call and I follow up and I'm like, hey, how are you? I'm just calling to check in to kind of see what's happening. Where are you in the process? And she thought I was the agent. And she goes, we're going to be in the area in November. Well, hello, what perfect timing for a follow-up, right?
Yes.
Now, as far as having those systems in place, I am not a huge proponent of overtasking, because we can get so many tasks that overwhelm us, because tasking is like one by one, right? When I have a good conversation that I know it's somebody I want to follow up with, I kind of rate my follow-ups based on temperature of the conversation. If it's a great conversation, I really resonated with this person, I confirm their email address, how often they want to receive updates, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, and making that note. And if you tag them as monitor activity, you can pull everybody up in the dashboard that you want to monitor without actually having to task. Or if you do task them, when you pull it up in the dashboard, you can see when it's due in a whole big group, so that you know you're not missing anybody, because that task does show. You can hover over it on that main dashboard. And that way, you know you're following up with that future potential instead of overtasking yourself. And, you know, making those determinations of price point. You know, if someone's just like that lady you were speaking of, that's like, honey, you're looking for a needle in a haystack. If that property existed, I would buy it, right? She might not be one that you really want to monitor. But if you know what her plan B is, if that move is more of a have to than a want to, you have to get her realistic. Let her look and let her realize it ain't going to happen. And I also like to give people advice as to what to look for as the listings are coming. So tell me, Susan, in regards to your market, do you have really low inventory right now and sellers seem like they have all of the power?
Absolutely.
So people that are waiting, two things are going to happen. Now, tell me about your interest rates in Canada. Are your interest rates low like they are here for us in the States?
Somebody just renewed the mortgage for 1.89.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what I like to educate the typical lead in my website on, because they don't know. They don't know what a buyer's market is or a seller's market is. That's our lingo, believe it or not. And it's just come so accustomed to us that we think everybody knows it. And if you share this with them, they're going to think ooh, I got a leg up on my friends. I know more than they do.
There's been so much press actually about how over zoomed that the market is, and that how much it's a seller's market, and there's been double-digit increases over year. In my market, some prices have increased 20% from one year to the next. And I think everybody's pretty well aware right now that it's a seller's market.
But what they're not aware of is how to recognize the shift.
Yeah.
So if we educate them on how to start recognizing the shift, based on what we're emailing them, it gives them something to look forward to receiving, because they're like, ooh, I know something that nobody else knows, right?
Right.
So when I explain to them, if they want listings once a week or bi-weekly or however often they want them, pay attention to how many new listings are in that email and start watching week over week. Because when you start to notice a shift, you're going to start to see more listings getting emailed to you. And you're going to start seeing the listings staying on the market a little bit longer. And that means that sellers are going to start to lose their power a little bit. And we may be shifting more into closer into a buyer's market.
Good point.
Now, respectfully speaking about interest rates, everything's relative. So yes, it's a fantastic time to buy right now because the interest rates are so great. However, you're going to be up against multiple offers. So as we move forward, watching the listings coming on, watching the listings sit on the market, if interest rates do start to climb, it's going to slow the buyers down and it's going to force the prices down on the listings, right? Because everything's relative. People can only afford so much per month. So in that shift, we're going to start to see a difference in how long homes are on the market and how many are coming on the market. So if you want to truly wait, we're gambling with interest rates, which I would rather pay more and have a lower interest rate than have a higher interest rate and pay less over the term of the loan, right? But this is what I want you to watch for over the course of the next months to see, are we going to have a shift in the market? We have no idea. And they're like, wow, you've just like popped open the magic can for them. They're like, ooh.
Okay. One of the other things too is we're finding now that 5% down isn't really good enough. People now have to have at least 10% down to afford it. And so quite a few of them are now saying, well, I just went onto the site to get information, but I'm saving for a down payment. I don't have enough money right now. Yep.
And don't fight them on it, right? No. Say, you know what, you're right. You are right. And what can I do in the meantime to help you?
Yeah.
What information are you looking for? And when would you like me to check in with you?
I do say that. This is how can I, improve your search? Are you getting exactly what you want coming into your inbox on my standard line?
Yeah. You got it. Don't overthink it. And How long have you been generating leads? Because I see it look, well, you're in a filter in here. Can I clear your filter? I'm logged into your system.
Sorry?
Can I clear your filter? I'm logged into your system. You have a filter up. Can I clear it?
If you clear it, that's her default filter. So that comes on every time she logs in automatically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so you have 268 leads. How long have you been generating leads, Susan?
For about a year. I joined the team a year ago, so.
Fantastic. And tell me what your process has looked like over the last year, as far as conversations and people that you've closed.
I've met a few people. I've set appointments for a few people. I've cleared a lot of the people that I hadn't tried to contact. I've got those whittled down to about 22 in my lead list. Some of those leads I've given back to the team leaders because I just felt I had too much. And I just couldn't phone, 250 people every day or every other day. It was just too much of an overwhelm. So Shelley and I sat down and so that's why the filter has come down to about 130, which is fine. I can manage that on a... Yeah,
it's a great number. And I love to hear you saying this because so many agents are just lead whores. They're like, give me more leads. And then we totally lose track and we aren't able to give that really good customer experience.
Yes.
And it really is 100% about having the high value conversations and setting yourself up for that pipeline. And a year's worth of leads is such a beautiful place to be in because more and more people are just coming on because I just had the text message response was like, why were you looking or something? And he says, because I was bored. So when I called him, I'm like, hey, this is Beverly. I saw that you were online looking at homes. And I said, I saw your text response that you were bored. So I figured I would call you and entertain you. We have no reason why people are online looking and they have access to it so they can. And they'll look years prior to, because it's just something they can do, especially now with COVID. Everyone's thinking a little bit more overtime right now of, gosh, I'd like to move here. I'd like to move there. I'm so stuck in my house. Where can I go? Wonder what the prices are like there.
Yes, I have had people.
Is there anybody in particular while I'm in your site is there a list that you want me to pull up, that you want me to dial a few people? Is there anybody in particular that you're thinking of that you want me to try and follow up with?
I don't know. I have been in fairly good contact with the ones that I have made contact with. So I kind of know where they're going. I have one contact, Eustace, says, oh, he's had a friend that's a realtor for over 20 years. I said, well, are you going to be using him when you go and make a purchase? He says, probably. Are you 100% committed to him? Well, I'm not sure. So he was the thing that, well, you've had a buddy for 20 years, then probably you're going to be going with him, is my feeling.
So I love that you brought this topic up. I'm going to back up and tell you so much of what I'm seeing right now. We're having an incredible increase of leads logging in and registering right now because they're out looking and they're so frustrated with the multiple offer game and the lack of inventory that they're thinking you may have something that their agent doesn't have. And the amount of leads that I've been able to convert that are frustrated, I love this market because it allows you to shine way more than a normal market. Because now we know their frustration and we know what their pain is, and we can come in and show our value. So for example, with someone in that situation, ask them, well, do you have any frustrations right now? What's going on? And even when someone says, I have an agent, well, let me ask you, what has your process looked like so far? Just tell me about when you started looking and what it looks like as of right now. They'll give you the story. And I've heard We've put an offer on a property. I can't tell you how many times I've heard we put an offer on a property and it fell through to home inspection because the home was in just such bad shape. And we got frustrated and we stopped looking. There's a lot of people that have stopped the process of looking right now because of the frustration. And I can promise you, so for every agent on here right now, those people that you've dropped the ball on, pick up the phone and call them and ask them if they're ready to start again, because that is where we drop the balls. Because they're on looking on other sites and they're going to get tied into another agent, I promise you. And if I'm the one making the phone calls, you're going to lose them.
Yes.
So when you're having that conversation with that lead, just ask them, what does the process look like for you so far? And so this was my new analogy. I talked to a gentleman the other day and he said, I'm so frustrated because I get the home in my inbox, I drive by it, and when I call my agent to look at it, it's too late.
Yes.
I said, how long have you been doing that? And he says, the last couple of months. I said, how's that been working for you? He said, it hasn't. I said, let me ask you this. When you go to a restaurant and you look at the menu, do you expect to make your own dinner on the menu? He's like, well, no. I said, well, real estate's kind of the same way. The homes are like the menu. But here's the reality. You don't go back in that kitchen and make your own dinner and serve yourself. You're going to the restaurant to be served. And that's the way real estate should be. We should be able to bring you the homes. You shouldn't be looking at them for yourself.
Yes.
So I'm going to go on the high side of saying 85% of the people that are out there looking for homes right now are doing it on their own. The agent is not being proactive.
Yes.
If we can have that conversation with them and we can ask them what their frustrations are. Susan, I'm going to ask you this. In your multi-list, do you have access to go back and look at people that bought 5 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago? If I was looking at a home that was $750,000 ish, if I was in a range of, let's say 650 to 800, and I wanted X amount of bedrooms, X amount of bathrooms with acreage, garage, and I had the exact criteria and I wanted to be in this zip code. Do you have the access to go back to look at homes that were purchased 5 to 7 years ago?
Yes.
And can you pull the property history to see that that home hasn't transacted in the last 5 to 7 years, that they're still living in it?
Oh.
You should.
Maybe expired, you mean?
No. If someone bought a home 5 to 7 years ago and you pull property history, you would be able to see if they have sold it since 5 to 7 years ago, correct?
Yes. Right. Yes.
Okay.
Right. Correct.
That is being proactive for your buyer, because the average time frame that sellers are in a home is an average of 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you go back in history to find people that bought back then and say, I have a buyer that's looking for your neighborhood, have a personal letter from your buyer explaining their situation and mail that freaking letter to that owner.
Yeah.
That is being proactive. And if you have a really disgruntled buyer out there that has to be in a home because they're relocating, or has to be in a home for a certain situation because of school or whatever it may be, and you're being proactive, not only are you going to gain an incredible buyer, that home may not be the match made in heaven, but you may pick up a listing. Because there's no guarantees that it's going to be the right home for that buyer, but that's all the buyers want, is an agent that is going to be a little bit more proactive and be able to engage in creative contract writing. Because that's what sets you apart in the market. And we have to truly believe that to have that conversation with these leads. because they are frustrated.
Yes, especially as our team just listed one house and 12 hours later sells for 80,000 over asking. I mean, of course.
Oh, how many offers?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's all over the United States too. I mean, it's just everywhere. And right now, I don't even think you can get in or out of Canada right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Canada's shut down. I was looking at all the countries that were open, and Canada was not one of them. It was like, well, shut down. Has this been helpful?
Yes, very good. Thank you very much.
Crystal, is there any questions in the chat or on Facebook?
No, there was just someone asking about your services. So I just posted your website link in there.
Oh, yeah.
But aside from that, everyone's just taking it all in today.
Lots of information. This is a way different webinar today than what it usually is.
It is. But you know what? It's where a lot of people struggle as well, right? How to handle that conversation and keep it going, and you know what, and how that should actually look like, right? So many of them are just focused on criteria, right? And if they're not moving now, then they're just kind of like a deer in headlights. They don't know how to keep talking. Like, what do I do now? So you know, this is most likely beneficial for a lot of people that are watching, for sure.
Yeah. It's such a different environment right now, and you know, it's been amazing calling leads through this time, because it's that the conversations have just been in such depth of what people's plans were and how they just got shifted.
Some of my leads that have been longer, I've been looking at what they were looking at and seeing that they sold. But so because the agent locator doesn't give the sold price, I go in, I go in and ask them if, you know, any one of those would have been more of their ideal, and try and sort of narrow it down their search that way by looking at what they've looked at, so to speak.
Well, in knowing that when we send listings out, because because there's links in there, knowing that they go to spam, let them know that. And there was a lady I talked to today. She registered a day ago, and I noticed she didn't open up the email. And I said, you got a welcome email whenever you logged in. I went and tweaked her search, and she goes, yeah, I probably deleted it because I didn't know who it was. And I said, well, I'm going to resend it as soon as we get off the phone, so that you know what website I am calling from, because that's a piece that we forget. Do you ever hear somebody say, oh, I'll call you whenever I find the home?
Yes.
And then I'm like, you don't even know who I am. Like, how are you going to call me? You can say my number? And guess what? I'm not the one that's going to be able to sell it, because I'm not the agent. So let's really have that real conversation right now about how many emails are you getting from how many different agents? I want you to remember me.
Yes.
Oh, Sherry's asking for my new opening line. Hey, Sherry, this is Beverly. I saw that you were online looking at homes, and I'm just wondering what your future plans might be, or what you might be looking for. Because it seems like everybody's in the future right now. There's very few right nows.
Well, a lot of the now buyers have been in previous dashboards, right? So they're few and far between. Put it that way. We call them unicorns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I did get one today. She was she just logged in yesterday. She's looking for her daughter, and she had literally viewed over 400 homes in the last day. And we have 5 picked out that we want to go look at. And I'm like, how did this happen? Because I call hundreds of leads a day, and I can promise you that don't happen very often. I was like, yes.
Yeah, it's almost like a fluke.
Please, agent, follow up.
It's like, how do they get this far without having to sign in anywhere?
That's another thing that we could really bring to attention today. Anybody that is generating Facebook leads, I am seeing an overabundance of bad phone numbers. And I'm like, huh? Like, how do you get bad phone numbers on Facebook? Well, what it seems to be is happening is when people set up their Facebook, so many years ago, they've changed phone numbers and they haven't changed their phone number in their Facebook.
Yeah.
And they're just registering with the Facebook, and that's the number that pops in. And I had a lady, she was like, I am not Tina. I really wished everyone would just stop calling me. And I said, hey, don't shoot the messenger. I said, let me just explain what's going on here. And she's like, oh my God, thank you. You're the first person that's actually sat and explained it to me. And so might you be looking for a home? Do you know anybody that might be looking for a home? Can you remember me?
Yeah. It's the back to you never know where the next business is coming from.
Yeah, you don't. You absolutely don't, you know, and I'm all about make lemonade, man, make lemonade.
Don't the leads have to fill out their own telephone number when they come onto our website?
Not for Facebook. For Facebook, it autofills with, if you're doing Facebook leads, it autofills with their contact information that they have on Facebook.
Oh.
So like as Beverly was saying, some people don't update their contact information in Facebook. So then it's somebody else's now number, or it's like a bogus email because they never use that email, right? Because once you're logged into Facebook, we're all pretty much logged in until we log out, right? So it's easy to happen for sure. But yeah, there is some of them where, and actually, I actually had someone bring that up. I should bring him in, see if that was a Facebook lead for them, one of the other trainers here. Because the lady was like, I keep getting calls from all these agents. I wasn't doing this, I wasn't doing that. Like, but somebody is either connected to a Facebook account, or this person has a lot of people that don't, or has somebody that really just doesn't like them and went all over the place and used their number. Like,
that happens too.
Yeah. So someone's going to register all over the place with this person's number, so they get annoyed with all the phone calls. It's like that I think I've seen like a little meme or something. If you don't like somebody, grab like 50 or 100 keychains or something and put fake keys on them, or just go to the like thrift shop and get a bag of old keys and then just drop them all over town with a number on it, so that all these people keep calling saying, I found your keys. I was like, that's smart. That's smart. And then they wouldn't even know who did it, right? Anita has a question here. She says she spoke to a lot of leads earlier, and they'll be looking only next year. So I lessened my calls to them, and now they don't pick up the calls. What should she do?
Dang, people. And this is where I'm like, yay, they didn't answer the phone, because sometimes you get stuck on the phone with the follow-ups.
Yeah.
Don't be attached to that outcome of the phone call. Just leave a voicemail, let them know you're there, and ask them, what is the best way for me to follow up with you? So just beat it to the punch whenever you're having that first initial conversation. I like to tell people, this is when I'll be following up, or this is why I'll be following up. Especially if it's somebody that is, and so first of all, make sure you ask them for next year, spring, summer, or fall. My cat loves to lay right behind my computer, and she's always bumping my screen. I'm like, I keep moving my computer this way, she keeps moving this way. So I like to ask them, spring, summer, or fall, when would you like me to follow up? And how would you like me to follow up? If you don't answer the phone, do you listen to your voicemails? So cut the objection before it's an objection, because we're going to assume they're not going to answer the phone. Mm-hmm. So if we just beat it to the chase when we're on the phone with them in that initial phone call, then when they don't answer the phone, you're like, yes, just leave the voicemail, let them know, hey, I was just checking in, you know, blah, 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 whatever it may be. Hey, how's your daughter? How's your dog? How's your husband? Whatever conversation it was that you had with them, just check back in, say, hey, I just wanted to, you know, check in on your home search and see how your daughter, how did she do on that test that we were talking about that day? That goes so far. But make sure they listen to voicemails, because I don't listen to voicemails.
Mm-hmm. I listen to the voicemail like once every, I don't know, whenever, and then it'll be like so many old voicemails in there. Yeah. You're like, oh, guess I missed that.
Well, and that prevents us from getting pissed off at them, right? Because I don't listen to voicemails. Why would I expect them to listen to my voicemail just because it's me? No.
Yeah.
And maybe even ask them, say, you know, do you listen to voicemails? Do they come through on your phone as text? or they come through as an email. Then you know you're taking the guesswork out of it. We're really good at painting our own picture. We're really good at assuming. We're great at that, actually. We're the masters of it. So if we beat all of those, you know, before they become objections, but that's the only places that I leave voicemails or on the follow-ups. You know, you just tell them on the phone, say, you know, hey, I'll leave you a quick voicemail. And I'll just follow up with a quick text. Don't expect a response. It's okay. Just please, please, please set the next reminder so you don't forget the next time to follow up with them.
It's about being convenient to them, right? So if they're not responsive, it is what it is, but you may get them at that one point where they actually need a response from you because they have a question and you just conveniently happen to reach out. And then they'll respond, right? So it's like, you got to put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Right. We all do it. We avoid it because we're not ready. We just don't feel like having that conversation because, you know, whatever it is, but conveniently that person will follow up, you know, and it may be at a time where you actually need their help. So you actually respond. Right. So it's all about timing, really.
And even taking that a step further, how great is it to receive a follow-up phone call from somebody and they tell you, don't worry about calling back. Don't worry about calling me back. I'll check in with you in a month or so. Yes, it takes off the pressure. So it puts them in the driver's seat. Well, you know, no need to give me a call back, but if there's something that you need or you have a question, feel free to shoot me a text or give me a holler back. If not, I'll call you in a month or so.
Yeah, I ain't calling you back if you tell me that. Give me a call back. No, you can call me back.
Yeah.
I don't got time for that. Unless I really need something from them, I'm not calling you back. If you're trying to get, you know, do something for me that's benefiting you in sense, depends on, like, maybe not on this topic. It's like, no, this is like your job. Don't put the job on me for your success.
Yep.
So
well, that's the thing, right? You're not a priority yet. Them moving is not a priority yet. They have way more fish to fry right now. And it seems as though everyone is going through chaos right now. There's not many leads that I talk to that are having a very easy life right now. So we can't take it personally whenever they don't call us back or they don't answer the phone, because people's lives have been so transitioned into a new norm that they don't even know which side's up. Because even now, calling leads, like during the, I'm working from home, they're answering the phone because they're working from home. And, you know, they're like, I can't talk right now, I'm working from home. It's like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. People are just trying to get a handle of their new norm.
Can I ask a question? I've got a couple of people that I haven't been able, one I have talked to some time ago, but haven't been able to talk to since. Okay. And another one that I haven't talked to, and both are very active on the website. Okay. They're opening their emails, they're looking at the stuff. So I feel like I want to send an email saying, I know talking is not a priority right now, but I see you're very active on our website. How can I help you?
Give me a first name or a last name, and I'll pull them.
Richard is one, and Donna is another.
All right, so let me pull Richard. All right, there's only one Richard in here, so it must be this one. All right, hang on 1 second. Crystal, how do I remove the blur?
Just re-click on the blur, like the thing, and then select the blur thing. Like it won't allow you to, it doesn't say unselect.
Nope, and then when I click on it, it just, oh, there it goes. There we go. Okay, so it looks like 10:18, 10:16, 10:09, 10:07, 10:02. Oh, look at you go, girl. I could hire you to make phone calls for me.
I said she's very active in there.
Oh my goodness, this is beautiful. Okay, so I was just on another webinar. I bailed off of that one to jump on this one. As far as texting and email, tell me what that looks like, Susan.
Well, he's been on our site for almost a year. He's looked at 238 emails. I've texted him about 8 times, and I've just called him a whole bunch. It's going to automatic voicemail at the moment, which is a little frustrating.
Well, and I'm actually looking at a text and it says, I think you have the wrong number.
No, I called him at that number and his voicemail is saying Richard did a. So I don't know why that is.
Well, you know what I'm wondering? Hang on one second. I logged into yours.
Did she mark it as invalid? Maybe the initial text was the wrong number and then the number changed? Or
I don't, maybe because the text was February 18th. But it says, I think you have the wrong number, because it says, good morning, Richard. And then it came back, so I think you have the wrong number.
and was the call made after that?
Oh yeah, there's lots of calls made after that. So when there's a PIN number, what does that mean? Does that mean they entered a new number?
Yeah, that means she would have marked the number as invalid at some point, and that person updated the phone number.
There's two PINs. So there was a PIN on February 18th, and there was another PIN on February 19th.
Oh, so that could be also because they tried to give a bad number again. It didn't work. They tried to fool the system. That could be why that happened.
So
but if they've entered the PIN, the number now should be updated in the system. It should be a different number in there than it was originally, where the guy said you have the wrong number. Yeah.
Yeah, probably then. He just doesn't like to answer his phone. So when you call it now, it does say you've reached Richard.
Yes, it does.
And you've left him a voicemail?
Pretty sure I have. Yes.
You can't win them all. And you know, the funny thing is, we can sit, yeah, he's looked at 247 properties, but his mom may be an agent, his sister may be an agent.
Yeah.
You know, we have no idea what's going on with these people. And that's why I love my call filters, because I don't look at Richard as Richard. I look at him as one of my 30, 40, or 50 in my call filter. I don't even think about Richard.
Okay.
So I haven't told this story in a very long time. And it was quite a few years ago. I remember my buyer agent, she called me and she's like, Bev, this guy called me back. I said, that happens once in a while. She's like, no, you don't understand. He came in our system. It was in like a May timeframe. And this was November that he called her back. And she says, guess how many phone calls we have to this guy? So from, March to November, he's always been active. Susan, how many phone calls do you think we attempted?
100?
You're close. 78.
Okay.
78 phone calls. He called her and said, I feel like I owe you a phone call. We were just down in the area looking around. We do have a home to sell. Now, we were an hour and a half outside of Washington, D.C., and he was living up near D.C. He said, we were just down driving around, and we're not ready to do anything until spring of next year. But I will tell, and this was a voicemail he left. I will tell you this. You have been so diligent with your phone calls. If you work that hard for somebody that you don't even know, I can't even imagine how hard you'll work for us whenever we choose you as our agent.
Perfect.
And, you know, it was one of those moments where it was like this shit works. Like you do it, you believe it. And then when it happens, you're like, oh my God, it really does work. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like Crystal said, it's all about the convenience, you know? And so we don't leave voicemails, but she did leave him a voicemail a couple of times because his recording said, if you don't leave me a voicemail, I won't call you back. So she's like, I'm leaving a voicemail because he said he won't call me back, but I'm leaving a voicemail, so you should call me back. You know, and I think there definitely does warrant a point that, yes, leave Richard a voicemail. Richard, hey, I know you're just looking. I don't expect you to call me back. I just wonder, am I sending you the right properties? That's all I want to know. I won't answer the phone if you want to call me back, or just shoot me a text. Like, give them that permission to blow you off. And changes the game a little bit, because we have to remember these leads feel like you're going to sell them something. And just like whenever we walk into a store, is there anything I can help you with today? No, just looking. Don't sell me anything. Right? And that's how they feel on the other end of the phone. And, you know, when we get yelled at by the leads on the other side of the phone, oh my gosh, you people, I just want to, why do I have to put my name, my phone number, and email? Why do you people have to keep bothering me? Have you gotten that one, Susan?
Yes.
And I'm like, whoa, hang on one second. Susan, did you ever think that we want to make sure that you're finding exactly what you're looking for? Yeah, but you keep bothering me. I said, Susan, this is the first time that I've called you. How many times have you put your information on the websites? But everyone keeps calling me. I said, okay, I understand that.
Yes.
But people will stop calling you if you stop entering your information. And guess what, Susan? You can unsubscribe from everything, because now you've talked with me. I know your situation. And you don't have to get a phone call back from anybody, because I'm going to give you 100% access to everything that you were looking for.
Good one.
It works. It works. Well, the F-bomb lady didn't work for her. She was not talking long enough for me to even get a word in edgewise. But we just have to break down that wall and that guard and not be afraid, because you lost them anyway, right? Mm-hmm. But if you can turn that conversation around, they just don't understand. They're not mad at you. They're just mad at the process. And then there was a guy yesterday, I'm like, he goes, why do I have to why do I have to give you my information? I said, so you can have a conversation with me. And he starts laughing. You know, just break that ice and make them laugh. And sometimes they're not going to, and it's okay. They don't like themselves at that point.
Yeah, they hate life. They hate everyone.
Exactly.
Not you. Nothing you can do to fix that.
100%. And so there was a couple of people. Is there somebody else that you want to get? I can try calling Richard. Let's just try it.
Okay. I think it'll go to voicemail.
Well, he doesn't send you to voicemail though. And his phone's not off. That's my typical 4 rings.
You've reached Richard at 647.
All right, Richard. Well, here's the good thing. He hasn't blocked you. He hasn't sent you to voicemail.
Maybe Richard has a lot of debt and he thinks you're a debt caller.
Yeah.
So he's avoiding. He's like, someone's going to get hold of me. I am not going to answer this call.
He would have blocked her. It's just not convenient for him. That's all it is. It's just not convenient for him right now. Is there someone else you want to give me a name of?
Somebody who's also been where I've been a lot of phone calls that hasn't.
Yeah.
Who else is that?
And that's why I said we just can't win them all. And that's why, you know, and someone like him, one of my dashboards that I was working, I got it all cleaned up. And now I'm kind of going into the depths. And where we lose the biggest amount of our opportunities is in leads that we've moved to contacted stage. Mm-hmm. And we're out in the field, we're doing phone calls. We don't come home and update the notes. We don't tag them and put them on the shelf of the grocery store. So they're just in a contacted stage with nothing on them. And we have to open it up to look at the notes. Well, I pulled it in this one dashboard. There's over 3,600 leads that are in a contacted stage with no task or an overdue task and not tagged. 3,600.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had the conversation with my client. I said, okay, you've probably seen that I've been a dialing maniac because I spend 2 hours a day in their dashboard. I said, you've probably seen that I'm a dialing maniac and we're doing like about 120 a day. However, now that I'm in, I call it the danger filter. I just made a filter of all my leads that don't have a tag and either have an overdue or no task. And depending on what my objective is that day, you have to go in there and literally open it up and look at notes, right? So I don't make phone calls when I'm in there looking at the notes. I'm going, okay, well, this person has never been spoke to. I have no idea why they're contacted. So I'm just moving them back to my tried to contact. And I just mark it with a moved back, right? Like, well, moved to tried to contact. And I just MTT, whatever the initials are. So when they fall into my filter of being active, I know there's been a previous conversation, so I know to look at the notes. So it saves me a lot of time and efficiency to be able to follow up with all the people. So if you go into all of your contacted leads that you haven't marked or you haven't set a reminder with, like this gentleman, let me look at your tags here. A buyer, own a home, sell first. So have you talked, how do you know he owns a home to sell first?
Because he gave me the address, or I looked up the telephone number and I saw that it was a landline and put in the address.
Okay. So again, we're assuming because he may keep his house and not sell it.
Yep.
So a tag in my mind is a situation of relocating, divorcing, low credit, bad credit, whatever it may be. If we haven't put them on the shelf of the grocery store, they're still attempted contact. And because we still have to find out where they are in the process. And I don't have to think about calling you back. They're just going to fall into my cycle. And if you're not actively engaged in looking, you're going to fall a little bit lower on my priority totem pole. And that way you're not thinking about Richard. You're just thinking about the phone calls you got to make.
Yeah.
So I would have Richard in attempted contact because we don't have enough information yet. And if he stops not looking, he just falls off your radar.
You have Richard in a what? You have Richard in a what?
What's that?
You have Richard in an attempted contact? What?
No, he's made contact. I would move him and try to contact because you haven't spoken to him.
He's probably on made contact because you made contact with the person originally that responded to your text that said you had the wrong number. So you always want to move those people back to a tried to contact because you didn't successfully make contact with the lead. You made contact with the wrong number.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, how leads get lost, because my main objective whenever I'm jumping into a platform is all the leads that have never been spoken to. Because once I speak to them, my job's done. I'm there to filter out and get rid of the licky-loos, and as I say, take one for the team, because I was on the phone for 10 minutes because this lady was home bored, right? So I'm there to filter out all the lowest priority people to get the highest priorities into the agent's buckets. So if I don't have enough information, it stays in my bucket until I send it over to the agent. So I would leave him attempted contact. So what I want to encourage all of you to do is to go into your system and pull up made contact. And Crystal, I'm going to ask you this question because I was actually in a dashboard yesterday. Is there an easier way that I can say no tags? Or do I have to physically go in and say no and click every tag?
No. Yeah. So you would go, you would have to have.
Okay.
You'd have to click the tags. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunately. So it'd be like tag, none, and then all of these things.
This is a good reason why to not have a bajillion tags, people. So what I do, so this is my challenge to all of you, is go into your database and choose your pipeline, make contact. And then the next thing is overdue tasks or overdue reminders, or doesn't have a reminder. Can you do both? Doesn't have a reminder and overdue?
You can have,
Crystal?
yeah. So it has a task or doesn't have a task, basically.
Yeah.
Like
so
all
it has
your
a
leads.
task, doesn't have.
Yeah, you have,
so
yeah.
So what if it had an overdue? Can you do overdue and no task, or would you have to set up two?
You can do overdue. So without the filters though. So you would actually go into the overview section on the left there with the flag.
Okay.
And then go through the tasks there, and you can filter tasks, whether they're upcoming, overdue, like you can put in specific dates that they're due or what have you. So that's where you can actually go through all of your tasks in our system.
Well, what I'm trying to get to in a quick overview is the leads that were moved to contacted that don't have any display on the dashboard. And what I mean by that is they're not tagged with the situation to say why they do not need a follow-up from you immediately, because they're not urgent, because they're bad credit, low value, divorcing, relocating, just looking, Licky-Loo, bye Felicia, whatever they may be. Or there wasn't a task set, or it was an overdue task. And you will have, I promise you, a list of leads, and those are going to be, I promise you, your top priority leads. In every one of my dashboards, those are my highest priority leads, because they get forgotten, especially if you've had a previous conversation, because they're not anywhere, right? You have to literally remember their name to find them. They're not in a filter.
I kind of do it the reverse.
What's that?
I kind of do it the reverse. So
and what do you mean you do it in reverse?
Well, I do put in the tags saying this is a good lead. So I know that, and this is a lead that's called from a landline. So I know not to text them.
Yes, and that's where I have my communication landline, and I also have communication gatekeeper too.
Yeah, yeah.
If you have the gatekeeper. But instead of, I like to take my leads,
yeah.
And it's like if you had like the 3600, right? I'm like, oh dog, like that's like putting in the GPS and not having any exits or any gas stops, or it's like you're just like 1 mile at a time, 1 mile at a time. Oh my gosh, I'm not getting there. But if you have 10 here and 5 here and 20 here and 25 here, it's a lot easier to digest and get through that list.
Yes.
So that's why I tag my leads based on their situation or their objection, and then that way I have my groups of I'm on hold because of COVID, or I'm just looking, or I'm not buying, I'm divorcing, I'm renting. I can always go back to that group and view my dashboard to see when was my last call, when were they active, do I need to do a check-in with anybody that's in this group? And that's only the ones that I've spoke to. If I don't have enough information to put a tag on them or put a reminder on them, they always stay in tried to contact. And that's my call filters, is to try to contact the new leads, the leads that registered the last 14 days, and the leads that registered 15 or more days ago that have been actively engaged in the last 30 days. And that's why if they're moved to a contacted stage and they're active, they're not falling into, like Richard wouldn't fall into, if you're like, Bev, call my leads, Richard wouldn't fall into my call filter. Because I would have to actually physically search him because he's just contacted. And, to Crystal's point, it was probably moved to contacted way back in the original whenever they respond to the text message.
And I do create some. So for some of you that end up with lots of leads or just, aren't so great at your follow-ups, I do create some follow-up filters using tags and last contact call. So then they're categorized. So I'll do like 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and then they just go into those categories. So they're already in a category. You just check the filter. As soon as you log a call, they fall off and they reappear 30 days later. So you know that you're never missing everyone. So our standard made contact are the people that you've made contact with that are active. And so anyone that I show those filters to, basically we avoid anyone that's already in an additional follow-up filter because they've already been categorized, making it so that anyone that's in the made contact filter are people that we still need to have additional conversations to determine the level of follow-up we should have with them, because maybe they only responded through text, or we just weren't successful at actually having that type of conversation with them.
Yep. And well, Gurmeet was saying in the Q&A, he's like, I have concerns with this. Just create a filter that is that it's made contact and that they've called back. Mm-hmm. And you'll catch every single one of them because it's just an automatic filter that I just check now. So it's just that double checking. It's not a bad feature. And the reason the feature is there is to stop the campaign. Right, Crystal?
For which one?
Moving it to contacted. The reason the lead contacted is to stop the campaign.
Yeah, it stops that campaign because there's been a response.
Yep.
You've made some sort of contact with them and on some level. Yes. Doesn't mean that you've actually spoke to them. It's just they could have responded to a text, even if it was the wrong number. Kind of thing. They just responded.
To say it again, pull up your ad filter, pipeline, made contact. And then it would be, Crystal, what is the other one that is like call, incoming call, or something to that?
Oh, last call result.
Last call result.
Yeah, is in, or call result, one or the other. So last call result would be the last call result, or there's just call results, which will pull up anytime the lead actually called in.
Yeah.
Most of the time when I'm looking at the call result of the lead calling in, it's like the lead calls, they hear the voicemail and they hang up. So it's like a 5-second call mark.
Yeah, but they're moved to contact and then they follow.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
And you can do the same thing with the text responses too. But the text response, I love in the upper right-hand corner, you have a bubble up there that shows you how many, like I work all the text out of that right-hand corner. And you can work it right from there. So you really don't need a filter for the text. Just make sure you're paying attention to those up there. And if they just responded back, like you have the wrong number, just move it to a wrong number. Just do what you need to do. If you got overloaded with the text messages, but it's really the phone calls that make the difference.
Yeah. Yep.
Susan, I hope this was helpful today.
It was very helpful. Actually, our team leaders don't like us to leave text messages. They said, just keep calling.
Yeah, well, and I am a huge fan of dialing, but you really do need 3 forms of communication today. You know, and the previous webinar that I was on, they brought up a really great point. If grandma's looking in my website and I'm trying to email or text grandma, probably not going to work. But if a millennial is in my website, by me calling, probably not going to work.
Yeah.
So we need to know what their forms of communication is. And I say, like, back in the day, and Susan, you've probably been around long enough, because I have been, it used to be land, sea, and air communication. Do you remember that term?
And fax.
Yeah, land, sea, and air. Well, today it's text, email, and phone. We need to have the 3 forms of communication to figure out what their preferred communication is, and always be respectful of how they're responding and respond to them through that communication until they give them permission. But hit them all 3 ways. And just with your text messages, be very direct. And that's why I said text etiquette is 1 question. Don't try and put 3 questions in because it overwhelms them. They won't respond. So, you know, really it's what are your future plans? How can I help you?
Yes.
Did we answer all the questions? Are we, let me go back to Q&A.
Yeah, I think like Gurmeet is just saying like.
Gurmeet, all right, so Gurmeet.
The calls back, yeah.
I'm curious to see, Gurmeet, how many leads did you have in there?
Gurmeet has a lot of leads, and we're working on Gurmeet tidying up his CRM. So he's actually doing very, very well in there right now. But yeah, he does have a bunch that are on made contact because the lead just simply called in.
Yep.
But the system doesn't, it could be something that we can look into the developers so that if the call is less than X amount of seconds, that it doesn't move to a made contact. Like I can ask, it'd be something that they need to put together for sure. It's not something that they can just turn off or on.
Yeah, that's been my request since they created it. So it could be something, but it's doubtful.
Yeah, but it's hard to, because I think they have it some default for like the length of call. It stays on no message left. But if you're on the phone for, however many seconds, it'll move to automatically that you talk to the lead because it's assuming you talk to the lead if you were on the call for, 90 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So I'm going to take this a step further. So those are the ones that call back in. What about the ones that have an overdue reminder or no reminder or not even any tags? You say you had 500 in there. I'm telling you, folks, that's where your gold is. So go dig some gold. I'll leave you all with digging for the gold.
Yeah. Just got to dig for the gold and find it. And that's where it's like the tasks, and you kind of said it's like important tasks where you want to remember. Every other task that I see people making, those are filters. Yep. If you haven't made contact with someone yet, you don't need a task for that. You have filters. They're already there. Just use the filters. Otherwise, you're going to have a ton. You're going to have ton of overdue tasks if you're only using tasks, and then the important tasks that you have because you had a great conversation with someone gets lost in the mix of things.
And don't forget, on the top right, you can click on that little calendar thing that shows you your tasks for today. So there's no excuses. That's my favorite spot. No excuses.
Just making it a habit.
Yeah. Susan, it has been a pleasure. And
Thank
don't
you
you worry about Richard. Just move him to try to contact him. He's just another dial. 23
Yeah.
seconds. 23 seconds.
I've just done that.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Thank you.
Susan. And thank you, Beverly, and everyone for joining today. We will see you in November.
Oh, gosh, that's crazy. Yes. See you in a couple weeks.
All righty. See ya.